Hello, so I got this down off the wall where it actually be visible for this stream, but can't really put it anywhere behind me where it will be too visible. I suppose I could just chuck it over there like that. Then it's probably slightly visible. There we go. I'll just do that for this stream. That will do. Right, I'm going to have to put live chat into the pop-out chat again because that's broken yet again, where the chat window has just not appeared. So that's that there. Now I'll set it to live chat, not top chat. So when people join, I can actually read their messages because top chat hides half of them. So hello to everybody. So today's St. George's Day. Weirdly, not only celebrated in England, but quite a few other countries as well. Because I guess that's just an adopted saint, a bit like St. Patrick's the adopted saint for Ireland. It makes more sense of Ireland anyway. But so yeah, I thought I'd mention that because it is today, and it's one of those things that you're probably not meant to be allowed to celebrate anymore because it's probably racist or something. What's St. George's Day about, Marcus? Or what's the stream about? The stream's about whatever, really. St. George's Day is just kind of English National Pride Day, which is one of those things they can't do that anymore. It's racist, but, you know, who cares? If you don't know what St. George's Day is, Google it. But it's weirdly, when I actually looked it up earlier, I think it says an African country that celebrates it and a couple of Eastern European countries. So that quite surprised me. I'm trying to remember which one it was now that celebrated it in like West Africa. It might not have been West Africa. It might have been Ethiopia, actually. I can't remember. It was quite weird. I was like, oh, St. George is actually like the saint patron. Well, he's going back a very, very long time ago, Flazzy, because he was a member of the Roman Empire, wasn't he? So, but it's just the adopted thing for the UK. But I thought I'd get the flag down from that wall where it normally sits. So, main thing I have to show today, because this came surprisingly quickly, actually. There we go. So there we go. You might recognise that. Some of you. So this is going to be my bushcraft knife from now on, because it's probably the most sturdy knife I own, and damn, this thing is impressive. It's quite a heavy knife, but yeah, it's stuck in England. It's like the English equivalent of St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, it's like the national adopted saint's day, basically. Oh, this would be a good bug out knife, yes, because it's literally designed to be an outdoorsy knife. But yeah, you can see how thick the tang is on there. So those of you that didn't hear on stream a few days ago, like 2 days ago when I actually bought it, what I ended up doing was selling a load of my Doge coins I'd made loads of money on from buying when they were worthless, and cashed them out and bought one of these. Yeah, it's a thick handle, isn't it, Stug? But it's properly secure. I'll put a lanyard on it at some point. That's a completely different shaped knife, Limpsky, the one he has. He called it a knife. Yeah, St. Andrew's, but obviously not Prince Andrew's Day. Yeah, St. Andrew's Day for Scotland. Yeah, I don't know what the Welsh one is, actually, but it's obviously St. Patrick's for Ireland. St. George for England and a couple of other countries. Don't know what the French is, and I don't care. But yeah, so I bought this as a bushcraft knife because I wanted an actual proper. That's good, Brighto. But I wanted this to come to have a proper bushcraft knife, and the reason being it looks less scary, even though it's quite big, than like a Bowie sort of knife, because people are like, oh, that's a Rambo knife. Of course, it's St. David. Why did I forget that, Flazzy? But yeah, so I'll be doing a video on this. I wasn't planning on doing a video on this today. I was going to do a different video today. Then this came and I thought, shall I do a video on this? And then I never ended up getting around to doing a video. So, you know, I'll do a video on this properly at some point, but this is going to be like, you know, a knife I'm actually going to use for sort of whittling and stuff like that. You can probably find out on the specification page, but it's going to be some sort of carbon steel. It came very, very sharp, so I'm not going to even sharpen it until I've used it a fair bit. But I didn't know there was a BitTorrent token. Is that like a crypto coin about BitTorrent? But yeah, pirate tokens. But yeah, so it's just a big riveted knife. It's like a sort of Messer style knife, but I really like this, actually. Yeah, I suppose why not, Flazzy? That's the thing. I bought some more Bitcoin today because Bitcoin's been crashing for the last couple of days. I thought I'll put some more money into Bitcoin. Then when it inevitably goes back up, I'm going to get some more money off of it. It was, Dogecoin was a joke, but it's actually, due to all the game stonks and stuff like that, it's actually kind of worthwhile now. So thank fuck for whoever it was in one of these streams who's a member who told a load of us, oh, would it be I think it's a good idea at the moment to buy Dogecoin while it's really cheap because I reckon it's going to shoot up, and he was right. But anyway, that's this. So I was really impressed because I think I either ordered this Tuesday or Wednesday and it came today. So that is very impressive how quickly they got this out to me. Nick's Knives, yeah. Shame he's not on because he might find this interesting. But yeah, I forget generally when whoever it is tells me about something. Unless it's like Mike, I always forget who it is that's mentioned something. But yeah, so there we go. That's what's come today. I have got other outdoorsy knives, but this one's a lot more durable and heavier. And yeah, keep it simple, stupid, isn't it, Brighton? That's the thing. KISS, keep it simple, stupid, or keep it seriously simple, whatever you want to say it as. The idea that you make something solid and sturdy and then less goes wrong with it. But yeah, from what I understand, that's the current issue, like general kind of sidearm knife for a lot of British soldiers. Somebody said in one of the streams the other day that they were really useful for like breaking bits of walls to check for booby traps. Right, hopefully that all goes well for you, Limsky. But don't worry, Ward, I won't stab myself. But yeah, basically I got that, so if I ever go out in the woods and want to do some whittling, I've got a really sturdy knife to do it with, and one that's technically, doesn't really look scary in terms of like, because the problem is like Bowie knives are good outdoor knives, but apparently now they're getting a bit of a reputation as being like, assault knives or whatever bullshit you want to put on them. Yeah, that's cool, Brighto. You have to show everyone that when you get it done or whatever. But yeah, the thing is, I just wanted to get one that I knew lots of people liked, that were properly into knives and spend a lot of money on knives, because I thought that one is a sensible price for the sort of durability of it. So Fermi 1 nuclear power plant fuel meltdown. Let's look when this was. So this is one in Michigan. So when was the meltdown? Or was this years and years ago? If Plainly Difficult's done a video, I've probably read about it. Oh, 50 years ago. Yeah, I've probably watched a Plainly Difficult video on it then, but there's so many like minor nuclear accidents, minor as in people don't get told about them, that I mostly just remember the really famous ones like Chernobyl, because Chernobyl was a really, really bad one. Yeah, I don't live in London, at least, Marcus, so I don't have that problem, at least here. The city near me can be bad at certain times for, like, muggings and some knife stuff. But in the countryside, you don't really get any of that at all. There's quite a lot of people you see dog walking that have, like, a bushcrafting knife on them or whatever, and you don't think twice about it. Quite often you'll see people with a gun bag slung over their shoulder, because there's a couple of fields near ones I walk sometimes where people do a bit of shooting. But again, that's the only thing that worries me about people shooting in that field is you wonder which direction they're shooting, because you'd worry if they're not checking people. I'd hope they're not shooting towards the footpath, but you never know. Nuclear power is definitely better than fossil fuels. I mean, in an ideal world, you'd have completely renewable energy, but nuclear is very, very green for what it is. Well, yeah, exactly, Bright. So we have that same thing over here. There's this nut job sort of eco group called Extinction Rebellion, and they kicked out their scientific advisor because the actual scientific advisor who knew stuff, guess what? They said, oh, everybody should adopt nuclear because it's really green. No, you can't have nuclear. That's the most dirty form of power whatsoever. It's worse than coal. Like, it's really not. The funny thing is coal puts more radiation into the atmosphere than nuclear does, assuming nothing goes wrong. Because obviously Chernobyl is a big example of, if nuclear goes wrong, it can go horrifically wrong. Yeah, I've not actually got an SA-80 bayonet ripper, but are they all right? What generation of it have you got? Because they've changed over the years, haven't they? Like how they mount. I missed Inductive Tea Cake's first comment, but all right, with knife length, anything over 3 inches, you have to have a reason for carrying it. So if you're going to carry a knife, literally the only thing you can really carry on you is a non-fixed blade if you don't have a reason. You know, like you just keep it on your keyring or whatever. Non-fixed blade less than 3 inches, so something like that. But of course, you are allowed to carry and use other knives if they're for good reason. So would I ever take something like this out shopping with me? The answer is obviously not. Would I ever take this out to me if I'm going into the woods and I want to whittle down some wood? Yes. You know, that's basically the way to look at knives. But because the thing is with nuclear is if more research was actually done into recycling of nuclear waste, we could get way more energy out of nuclear as well. Because there's meant to be some really good batteries coming out soon, which are like part diamond, part nuclear, part lithium, aren't they? Where it essentially keeps regenerating its own power due to decay. So the idea is that you can have a battery that's going to outlive the lifetime of like a phone it's put in or whatever. But you know, I think the problem with a lot of nuclear stuff is that it sort of exists and then it's done on a cost-cutting budget rather than it being properly looked at and, you know, made to the best standard it can be. And I mean, I know you get cost-cutting everywhere, but nuclear, I think, is where you definitely don't want to cost-cut, you know, because that's what we've learned from, I think, lots of disasters from all sorts of industries, oil, you know, nuclear, whatever. Is normally the big disasters are where you get lots of cost cutting and cover ups of what might go wrong. So, you know, staff aren't trained to work the stuff properly. Like if you look at the reason Alpha Piper blew up, or Piper Alpha, whichever way around it was called, I think it was Piper Alpha, wasn't it? The reason that blew up is because they were having maintenance done, but all the staff weren't told properly that there was maintenance going on and all the forms hadn't been filled out. So when they went to, you know, turn a valve, they hadn't been told that the valve was out of action and it hadn't been, you know, tagged properly or secured properly, and that's what started the initial fire. And then you had all the like greedy shit where the company was going, oh no, keep pumping oil and gas onto the rig, you know, it's too much money if we have to shut it down. And of course it blew up and killed everybody and they wouldn't get any more money out of it whatsoever again. But you know, that shows you what greed does. If you want it from airsoft only, Brighthole, that's a very good price for it. Obviously, Mark 6A is better because it's Kevlar, but regular Mark 6 would be good for airsoft. Because, in all honesty, actually, the regular Mark 6 is a bit sturdier when it comes to blunt force than the Mark 6A. Because for some reason, the Mark 6, unlike the Mark 6A, has a much stronger plastic kind of cover on it. I don't know why. But the Kevlar one on the Mark 6A is like a weaker kind of shell. Whereas the Mark 6, the original, has that really, really sturdy green kind of plastic on it. That's like a hard hat style plastic. Because one of my friends modified a Mark 6 helmet and he had to get diamond tip drill bits to drill through it because it kept, you know, wearing down his regular drill bits that you go through like concrete with. Well, Oliver, I think it would work well, assuming that you don't have one that's too long to swing about. But bear in mind, you might have a hard time convincing the police why it was justified. I mean, unless you're going into the sort of thing of, you know, like you had one on your wall on display, somebody broke in, and then you grabbed it as you went to see what was going on because it was to hand. That might work, but, you know. And there have been people who have fought burglars off with swords and never been charged. But, you know, I just think, you know, you certainly wouldn't say, I'm planning on buying this sword for self-defense, because that's a very, very dodgy thing to do in the way the law works. It's very similar, Marcus. The filler is, I think the filler in the Mark 6A makes it a bit heavier because it's proper Kevlar in the Mark 6A, not ballistic nylon. So I think it's essentially a denser filler in the Mark 6A, but the plastic's a bit heavier on the regular Mark 6. So there's not much in it, though, in all honesty. Of course, if you're using one for airsoft, you wouldn't need an airsoft mask on because you could just do this, couldn't you? Get the ballistic, it's not a ballistic visor, but, you know, get the, get like the riot upgrade for the Mark 6A, and then you've got a, you've got that for airsoft. Airsoft Things definitely aren't getting through that. What do you mean by, do you have the German? Do you mean, have I kidnapped a German or what? Right, Ian, I've definitely got quite a bit of military surplus clothing that gets used a lot, whether it be coats, you know, when the weather's appropriate, or just like DPM or like fleck-tarn trousers, you know, for stuff like that. That sort of surplus I use the most. I've sometimes used Geiger counters when somebody literally just asked me, can you check my house in case there's anything radioactive in it? Sometimes I've used mil-cert ones. A lot of the time now I just use my radius scan for that. But I've used those in like those situations. Gas masks, again, good for stuff like corona or just if you're doing something with fumes. I don't know, Jack, because I've not looked up every different artist that's done the illustration of it. But obviously, while St. George was real, the dragon probably wasn't. So, you know, there's that about it. But isn't it because St. George is the patron saint of war? That's why he's the England's sort of mascot. I've done it, Alex, with one of my masks. Basically, if you've got one where you can literally get those, you know, filter pads for like the cloth masks, just get one of them and duct tape it or you know, elastic band it to your exhale valve if it will let you do it. That way air will flow in and out through a filter. Yeah, the only problem, Ripper, I'd say, with the British sort of trousers is they're not very thick, are they? They rip easily. That's the only issue with like the sort of DPM style trousers and the MTP ones. They're really, really thin material. The MP40 is a submachine gun, Lucas. It's not a proper machine gun. The MG40 is a machine gun. That's a machine gun. The MP40 is a submachine gun or like a machine pistol. No, I don't have the German Draeger Simplex. I have the Israeli 4A1, which is basically the same mask. But no, I don't have an original Draeger one. Yes, typical pyro engineer. That's why I literally said it's a machine pistol. But again, machine pistol and submachine gun are basically the same thing. I suppose, but the ATF don't know a lot about guns, do they? I suppose the ATF know a lot about killing women and children and people's pet dogs, but I wouldn't trust the ATF to know much about guns, or probably about tobacco and tobacco and alcohol for that sort of same matter, because the ATF are a bit of a dickhead, aren't they? Yeah, a lot of the stuff, Brighton, when you buy it, has soldiers' names in marker pen written on it, because it's obviously no, the ATF are cunts, though, aren't they? Like, out of all the alphabet agencies, are there any more despised in the US than the ATF? You know. I think it's probably the cartridge it uses, Ian. Normally, submachine guns are pistol cartridges. Normally, actual machine guns are generally much heavier construction, you know, designed for a lot more sustained firing and using rifle rounds. I suppose, yeah, the IRS probably could compete with the ATF. They're the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms in the US, typical pyro. And they're an agency known for accidentally killing people a lot, you know, in raids and things like that. So they're basically the No Fun Allowed Brigade. We won't go too much into it today because it will be turned into a depressing sort of whinging stream. But if you look up the Waco siege, the Waco siege is a good example of why people don't like the ATF, or the earlier one where they snipe some woman because, oh, that's fun, sniping women. But, you know. My favourite Russian gas mask, modern Russian or Soviet to modern Russian times. Yeah, St. George's Day today. I don't have it on my calendar ready to tick off every year. I just knew it was today. Have Google done their picture for it? I bet they've not done it. But you know how Google sometimes do a daily sort of picture thing? I just want to see if Google.com have Google today. Oh, they have actually got it today. No, Google. I'm not interested in talking to Google on my phone. It's spammy. Yeah, shut the fuck up. Yeah, St. George's Day 2021. They actually do have a dragon and a man on a knight. Sorry, a man on a horse, like, you know, a knight slaying a dragon. So there we go. I did not expect Google to do that, but there you go. If people in the thing want the picture, I'd have thought St. George's Day would be verboten, but there you go. Can't it literally be a Mori Samurai, literally something like, oh, your shotgun is slightly too short. Your sawn-off shotgun is sawn off too short. Therefore, your family has to die. But yeah, we won't go too much into ATF, but I've not, Heinrich, but let me guess. I'm assuming this is where, like, you can't have a proper grip on it because grips make it better at shooting people or some shit. I assume that the stock and the barrel have to be really long, so it's as unergonomic as possible. And I assume it can only have, like, the tiny magazine. Is that what the sort of thing is? But let me Google it. But I'm sure it is this kind of when you take gun control too far kind of thing. Remove prohibited. Oh, I guess that's to have wooden furniture as well because black is scary. Right, I'm looking at some now. I mean, they look kind of sci-fi, but yeah, they seem entirely pointless. Like, the coolest thing I can say about them is they look futuristic. Other than that, you know, that's stupid. So you have to have a smaller mag in it by the look of it. You can't have a proper grip because apparently a grip aids in shooting children, I guess, according to the logic of the people who make these rules up. You know, and stuff like that. Yeah, well, that's the thing, Jack. I didn't even know that, but that does not surprise me because here's the thing. It turns out that if somebody is a competent shooter, or it doesn't even have to be that competent shooter, especially if people can't fight back, they can generally kill people and shoot them with something that's not very efficient at doing it. Because, you know, I've got a bolt-action rifle there, which I'm not really meant to show on YouTube streams, unfortunately. And the bolt-action rifle doesn't have many of the features of a modern rifle, but guess what? If somebody's a competent shooter, they can still shoot somebody with a bolt-action. Because, you know, it's not like they did that for years and years and years. Yeah, well, don't forget there was a similar thing in Canada at one point where AR-15s were illegal, but Mini 14s were legal, even if you had like a higher mag capacity on the Mini 14. And it was literally because, oh, the Mini 14's got wooden furniture, so it doesn't look scary. It's like, oh, I'm glad that the people who make these... I guess it's like the same, the reason I bought this knife to have as a bushcraft knife is because you have to put up with that sometimes. Compare this knife. Let me get out one of my other similar knives that I could use for kind of similar uses. It might be too difficult to get those out because seems like I've put my cupboard too close to. All right, here's the Israeli one. So yeah, this sort of knife is the type a lot of people would use for a similar sort of thing. Unfortunately, these are known as Rambo knives or hunting knives, or I think military knives now. So knives like this are considered to be, you know, scarier than this one, even though in theory, I guess the blades are pretty similar length. I suppose this is a bit more concealable, but what does it matter? If either one of them stabbed you, it would be bad for you. And, you know, there's also the thing, I guess, that I wonder what happens if you try and put the bigger one in the smaller one's sheath. I just want to see how well it fits. Might be just too tight a fit. Yeah, it's going to be too tight a fit because obviously this one is much bigger blade in terms of, you know, that. But yeah, it's a similar shit here, even with knives, which is a stupid thing. It's like when they banned zombie knives. Like, zombie knives looked absolute shit, but they wouldn't be more efficient at killing somebody, probably even less efficient. And it's like nearly all the stabbings we have in the UK are with kitchen knives or like household tools. It's because people buy those because they're cheap and disposable. People who are intending to go around stabbing people probably don't care about like the actual quality or blade shape of a knife. Zulu's not a bolt action though, is it, Oliver? Zulu has Martini Henrys. They're lever action. Martini Henry's got an underlever and it opens the ejector port where you put the round in. Trapdoor sort of gun. I've got a Martini Henry if you're interested, but I can't get out on streams because that's verboten. Brighto, it was something like a knife with words that incited violence on it and like green colours or some shit. Yeah, Kennedy got shot with a Carcano, apparently, War Bros. So, you know, the apparently Italian gun that wasn't good enough. Yeah, it was good enough to kill a US president. Oh, yeah, good point, Mike. Yeah, very good point. So, yeah, hold it like that. Or, yeah, just be very careful. Yeah, I get your point there, because, yeah. Like, because you can see at that bit of the sheath that there's already a bit of sort of play there. That's not a bit where they've actually riveted it, but, you know, there is like a little bit there, but you can see that, you know, because that's not been totally closed on that bit, you can see that obviously it would potentially. I might get a bit of thread actually later and thread that there, so it doesn't really matter too much. First thing I'm going to do on this is put a lanyard on it, just a little short one, so I can have it on a lanyard. Yeah, happy St. George's Day, Phil. Oh, I know what you mean by a head shop. Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's a bit weird, isn't it? Letting kids play with knives. But the thing is, inductive tea cake, why completely ban something? Because, again, just throw the book at people who do bad shit. The problem is over here, it seems we don't have very good prosecution rates for lots of crimes, but we just make the laws stricter and stricter when criminals don't care about the laws anyway. Well, here's the really weird thing about Amori Samurai, is you can actually get knives which are really bright green and bright orange because they're designed so people can see where they are more easily if you're using them for some sort of like task. You know, I've got a couple of like knives like that, and the idea is that if you drop it, it's really easy to see it if you drop it in grass or whatever, you know, where it's dark, because it's almost like a fluorescent orange because they're designed as like safety knives. But when they put intimidating words on it, it's suddenly apparently a lot more evil. Yeah, I definitely agree with you there, Mike. This does seem quite a nice sheath, in all honesty. It's, like I said, decently thick leather, and it's been riveted as well as stitched. But yeah, I do definitely get your point. Yeah, like I said, I'm definitely not going, oh, I know more than you, Mike. I'm just sort of saying that, yeah, this does seem quite a nice sheath. But yeah, you do make a good point. The one I've had more problems with on some sheaths is where you put the knife in and then the blade comes out the bottom bit there. Because like on this one, you can see obviously how they've done it. This bit is longer than where the blade tip goes. I've had some where they've just put like a little bit of card there to stop the tip of the blade coming out. And then if you put it in the sheath too quickly, the blade, you know, pierces out the bottom. And if you had your hand under it, then obviously it would get you. Right. When you say in Chernobyl, if you mean literally in the town of Pripyat today, it's barely higher radiation levels than anywhere else. If you meant next to the elephant's foot, you'd be dead very quickly still. I am, but I haven't got any Guinness with me at the moment. Jeez, I do. So I've got a cup of tea here, so that's up there, so I'm being sensible at the moment. All right, Phil, the reason you haven't seen crossbow videos for ages, as a lot of people know, unfortunately, is one of the neighbours likes to complain about it. That's literally the reason. It's not because I don't like the crossbows, I do, but it's the situation a few other channels I chat with on here have. You get somebody move in and then suddenly they get shitty about it. What can you do, you know? Yeah, it's up to you, inductive TK. I was saying it's completely up to you, and it's ultimately down to a jury if things go badly when stuff happens. But again, it's the law says you can carry a knife like this if you're out and about in the woods. That's what I've planned to get it for. I'm not carrying this on me every day. You know, I would be very surprised if I have this on me outside more than once a week, if that. And that would only be if I'm going somewhere that barely anybody's going to be around and I want to whittle some wood. But, you know, the point is I wanted to get a knife that was good enough for that sort of thing, that I could worry, don't have to worry about doing some of the stuff with it, because a lot of the knives have crap tangs or whatever. But, if you look at this one, you can see the tang is really thick and solid. You can see there as well where they've actually soldered or like welded the tang bit onto the grip, so that doesn't move either, which I think is quite nice, because on a lot of knives they don't do that and you get a bit of rattle there. Yeah, it's weird, Brighto, isn't it, how like crossbows are treated in different countries? I especially find it weird in countries where you can own like archery bows, traditional bows of any power, but a crossbow isn't legal. So a low power crossbow is technically like more dangerous than a longbow according to those laws. Now, look up Live Corps MOD knives, as in Ministry of Defense. Yeah, you can have bows. I've got some in the background. Out of all the ones I've got, Zach, the best one I've got is the Chinese Gen 2 Plus NNVT, but I've got a very soft spot for the giant IM101 British Gen 2 night vision that was for like naval officers. Well, not naval officers, but one where you could be on a ship and look through it to scan for enemy ships or submarines. Yeah, did you see the thing, GZ Deuce? We mentioned this on the stream months ago, because it must have been months ago, because it was when we weren't locked down at one point. I don't know which one the SAS used, but I do have a Fairbairn Sykes, which, let me find where I've put it. If it's in this drawer, I might be able to get out for you. If it's not in this drawer, then no. But I've got a Fairbairn Sykes somewhere, and a Fairbairn Sykes is a pretty famous... Oh, this fell out of its sheath, and I just had it go into my hand. It didn't cut me, but that wasn't a pleasant surprise. But yeah, there you go, Fairbairn Sykes. That's the British Commando-style World War II knife. I was playing Battlefield 5, and I was actually pleased that in the SBS mission, you do have this as your knife for the mission, because I thought they'd just probably give them an American knife, knowing, how modern games are. But, yeah, again, this is not a knife you would ever use for bushcrafting, and I don't think, unless you were doing reenactment stuff, you would ever have a justifiable reason for carrying a Fairbairn Sykes, because this is a knife literally designed to kill people. That's its job. Compared to a zombie knife, I would be much more scared if somebody tried to stab me with this, because it's designed to penetrate very, very easily and, do a lot of damage when it goes in and gets sort of punched out of you. This is one of the few knives I've got that I've actually managed to stab through. Well, I couldn't do it. One of my stronger friends could stab through a stab-proof vest with it, because this, the point on it actually gives enough penetration and the shape of the blade. If somebody's strong enough and it's not, like one of those spike reinforced vests, this will actually go through it. Probably not any good for peeling potatoes, no. I mean, you probably could, but it wouldn't be very good at doing it. I've got an M1 carbine up there. I'll tell you what, I'll spin the camera around. Look, there you go, M1 carbine, M1 carbine, M1 carbine. There we go, I didn't handle it, so it's all right according to YouTube. Yeah, same as in the UK M1C Austin, but I wouldn't mind owning a rondel dagger, although I don't think you'd ever have a legal excuse for carrying a rondel dagger on you. But yeah, I like a lot of medieval like knives and that, because I've got bill hooks and things like that, and some swords, as you can probably see. But, again, ideally, I like knives that are practical. I've already done one Live Corps. I'm pretty sure it's a members-only feature. And I'm sure the members can attest to that. That is like the one only members video on this thing other than streams. So I do a lot of members-only streams per week. But the only members video I ever got around to doing, because everybody voted for it, was just one where I walked around this room showing different things. I liked the first, like, no spoilers for Game of Thrones, because I know there's some people who are in the process of watching it that come on here regularly. But I really liked the first couple of seasons of Game of Thrones, and I think it went downhill very quickly. And again, that was because they did the series faster than George Martin wrote the books, didn't they? Which was the issue with that. So what you ended up happening there was the show's writers thought they were better than the author, and they clearly weren't. I don't know, Kit Barker. Why did you sub to me? I don't know. I can't answer that. I'm not psychic. Did YouTube randomly recommend one of my videos to you? You liked that particular video and you subbed? FFP3 can protect you from smoke to a degree, but it won't protect you from all the carcinogens in smoke. If you wanted to, your local MEMA, and you could afford it, why not? Helmets are completely harmless. I mean, other than ones that had asbestos liners, but, you know, helmets aren't like knives or guns, where I mean, yeah, you still actually do get people like, oh, you have no right to have a helmet or body armor on, but if you like want to collect helmets, collect helmets. Soviet bayonet, what, like the AK bayonets? AK bayonets by default aren't sharp. You might be able to put a good edge on one, but they're not Dixie clock. It's a Nixie clock. If it's a Dixie clock, it would have a little Confederate flag on it, but it's not. But yeah, you're on about this knife. I just pulled this out when I was looking for the Fairmont Sykes. That's like an AK style bayonet. Can be used for some bushcraft stuff. Not ideal for it. These are more of a combat knife, or just, you know, a utilitarian bayonet. Can also be used to stab people kind of knife. Not in ages, Martin. Next time I finally go to see Mike, again, I'll take that over and we can do some videos with it. The slot inductive tea cakes, so you can use it as a wire cutter. So what you do is you get the knife, you put that there, like that on the scabbard, and then you do that, and that's a wire cutter. So that is really efficient at cutting wire like that. You know, like barbed wire, that sort of thing. Because it pushes the knife into a little really sharp groove there. And that gives it enough force to basically cut through, you know, like barbed wire, razor wire, stuff like that. Yeah, Mike was just saying it's easier to do it in your garden because you can, you know, you can save up bottles. I can save up some bottles and we won't have anybody moaning about us doing it. A lot of bayonets have that on, but yeah. That's the weird thing is Mike has the Chinese version of the AK bayonet and they didn't put that on there, which seems really weird. But yeah, that's what that's for. It's a wire cutter. You know, and it works quite well. I have tried it on wires before, you know. Having a smaller little pair of wire cutters like scissors is a bit handier, but this one works very well for what it is. Too many? But the answer to that is probably about 140 masks now, because I've given some away. You know, other stuff like that with them. All right. Let me find where the scabbard has gone. There it is, the sheath for the Fairmont Sykes. So yeah, basically, this has one of those sheaths where it just sits in there like that because it's designed to be a very quick pull-out knife. Again, this isn't. I can't see any way you could justify FS knife as a like a legal carry. You know, when you're doing it, even if you're in the woods or whatever. Where of this you can, because this is actually like a woodsman outdoors type knife. This thing is not. You know, and again, that would. This type of knife, if you got stabbed by one, would put a bigger wound in you, but I think the FS would be more efficient at actually penetrating to a vital organ. Do you know which lighter it was, litter picker? Because the annoying thing of lighters is there's been barely any good ones I've seen for ages that looked interesting enough to buy. Out of all the old steel helmets, probably the Yugoslavian style helm. Because that has a very good shape. It's like a German M40 style helm, but it's not as bulky. It's good quality steel and got a good liner. So, you know, it's comfortable, got a good chin strap, gives you a decent level of protection for a steel helmet, isn't too heavy. You know, had an assortment of covers they could put on it. I've got one somewhere in this room, and I can't see it at the moment because there's too much clutter everywhere. But it's probably actually behind my chair. Here. Oh, there it is. It's wedged between a chair and this cabinet thing. Because yeah, it had fallen off the post thing. This one, but yeah, that's the helmet I'm like. This out of all the steel helmets I've got, this is probably the most compact sort of good one. And it's got that really clever chin strap that lets you do that to tighten it up. So you can tighten it with a gas mask or like a big sort of cold weather hood on or whatever. I've not seen anything about the Polish Grot gun. Is that like an assault rifle or is it like an anti-tank weapon or what? But yeah, the only lighter I got recently that was any good, and I think I did a video on it, was one that had a bottle opener built onto it because I thought that was a really good feature. Is that like the kind of twisty knife, Rayanne? I know that's probably a really bad way of saying it, like a what they call it? it's not a triangular blade, but I think they ban those here for some reason in the kind of like the zombie knife type ban that, oh, the only reason you'd ever have that knife is to kill somebody. It's like, well, you might want it because it's an interesting knife. As I've said before, this is still one of my old favourite classic lighters, a little Imco. I've not got any fuel in it, but... Which gas mask? You just said the gas mask. That just means model with the US Army, Ian. So like Model 1, Model 2. So M1 carbine, Model 1 carbine, M1 Abrams, basically Model 1 Abrams tank. It's a bit annoying because there's so many things they can put M in front of. But it just means model. They generally used to call them mark in British service, or number, like number 4 Mark 1 Lee Enfield sort of thing. But a lot of Asian countries use the word type, like Japan and China both say like type 75, type 99, that type of thing. But it's just a way of basically organizing stuff. Yeah, that's why I thought, Mike, when I thought of that. Yeah, like the twisty one. Yeah, I've still got all my flak jackets. I've never sold any of my flak jackets. The ECBA, I've started doing quite a bit of exercise in that, just because it, means you have to work a bit harder with whatever you're doing, because it just puts more weight on you, but not too much weight, to the point where, where I've got a back injury, it can mess that up. Most common gas mask in the world is a Soviet GP5, because the Soviets made over 100 million of them for civil defense. I've handled one. I've never shot one. Because Mike has a Chinese Type 86S bullpup rifle, which is quite rare, so it's quite nice he's got it. And that's an interesting design. I mean, obviously some bullpups are better than others, like some straightforward guns are better than others, But with bullpups, they have to be very well designed and weight distributed to actually be good. Otherwise, they just feel very, very weird handling them. I'm glad you're having a good time in a pub, Ryan. Yeah, I'm into history gaming with Carl Duke just because history is interesting and you can learn stuff from history you shouldn't do again, mistakes people have made in the past. But yeah, so anyway, I was saying, out of all the steel pot helmets, I think the Yugoslavian one, I need to put the liner in there, actually. It's come a bit loose. I assume that's from when it fell off the thing. Yeah, let me just secure that thing. It's quite easy to redo the liner once you know what you're doing. There we go. So yeah, that's the liner for this helmet. It's very similar to an M1's liner, but it's attached to the actual helmet itself rather than being in an inner liner. But yeah, like I said, out of all the steel pots I've got, this is definitely one of the best ones, because it's basically a Stow helm that's just more modernized. Paradise. First, if you're not in the US, try looking on ebay.com as opposed to ebay.co.uk or whatever. But in general, lots of US stuff is quite overpriced if you're trying to buy it from outside America. And I don't say that to be mean to Americans. I'm just saying that's the truth of it. Like when I've been buying US civil defense stuff, like the CDV 720, you can just about see in the corner of that shelf there. All the CDV stuff, for example, is a bit expensive if you're buying it outside the US. Yeah, it'd definitely be legal, John. Again, it's more of the thing, could you carry it on you with justifiable reason? That's where the law, gets a bit funny. But yeah, there's nothing inherently illegal about it, kind of thing. That'll be good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to you doing all that 1903 Springfield up, whatever it was, John. Yeah, weirdly, Ryan, I'm not on the alcohol at the moment, even though you are. But I'll have a drink later, seeing that it's St. George's Day. But yeah, I'll have a good evening, Ryan. If I stream tomorrow, I'll do a members one, by the way. Yeah, well, gaming with Carl. Sometimes I game a lot. Sometimes I have periods where I can't be motivated to play games, and I like want to watch films instead or whatever, or just read books. But at the moment, I've been playing a lot of Battlefield 5, and while Battlefield 5 is not very historically accurate, it is quite fun. And I didn't pay full price for it. I got on the sale, so for that it's all right. I do like in Battlefield 5 though that there's a lot of British Army stuff in it, as opposed to Americans. Because in most World War II stuff, it's just always like America versus Germany, America versus Japan. Where it surprised me with Battlefield 5, there's actually more British content in it than American content. Which just makes a nice change because it's also like for ages there weren't any games where you could play as the Soviets during World War II, and that's also a shame because it's nice to have a bit of variety with games rather than it being America did everything in World War II. Is that like a War Thunder thing, your local meme? If so, I haven't done that though. I've got one Japanese World War II gas mask in awful condition, Dylan. That's all I've got. Because a lot of it you just never see for sale here. Have you seen Fred's, Ian? Fred's is definitely the most depressing. If somebody can beat Fred's, I would give that person an award. Well, I'm assuming it's because it's the Western Front in Battlefield 5, isn't it? And the Pacific campaign. Whereas the Soviets were on the Eastern Front in World War II. But again, it depends, because if in theory, they did an expansion, they could put the Soviets in it, couldn't they? But, there's also lots of countries that fought in World War II. People don't normally remember, like Italy, some of the Eastern European countries. That's the time. It says 08:55, so 5 to 9 p.m. 20:55, basically. Yeah, but if they did a high budget remake, and hello if you've just come on, did you see this, Nick, when I was showing it? This is my new favourite knife that's come that I'll be taking out to the woods to do some bushcrafting stuff with. Well, I wouldn't be able to do bushcrafting stuff very well, but I want a knife that's capable of doing it. So it's an MOD survival knife, one of the really chunky, sort of good, like knives. As I said, this knife definitely has the principle of keep it, simple, stupid with the knife design, because it's one that's designed to be very, very sturdy. I mean, look at the tang and the handle. Yeah, this was the proper one, Nick, I got. But if you remember, this is the one I said with the Dogecoin thing you said. That's where I sold some of them off. I was like, oh, get one of these. Yeah, like I said, ACM, there's so many things you could do with a World War II game, isn't there, that people don't normally consider, but it's generally always the major powers. But I think a World War II game about Poland would be pretty good. There is one I played where you get to play a bit of like the Warsaw Uprising as Poland. I can't remember what it's called now. But a lot of that game was shit, like some of the bits in Poland are all right, but there was a lot of the game where it just played like absolute crap, like the controls weren't very good and everything else. Um, I've got one of the coffee cans Pedro one somewhere. I mean, I don't have any for sale because the one I've got is open and used, and it's probably in a box somewhere like there. But I think Hype said he might be sending me in one of my parcels, like a modern Chinese good, like military style or industrial coffee can. I suppose it's wherever you're more comfortable pulling it out, not smoking either alcoholic, or, depending on what gear you're wearing, which you can then get at. Because again, I think where knife holsters go a bit like gun holsters, depends on what job and what gear the person's carrying it. Are they right or left-handed? There's probably a lot of factors that mean you could pull one out of one place quickly, but not another place. All right, good luck hunting then, Fuzzy. I can't remember, Brighto. Let me. I've got it on Steam, so if Enemy Front is on my Steam game list, it will be Enemy Front. I've got a game called Enemy Front on my Steam list, and I've played 2.3 hours of it, so it's that. Graphically, it's all right, but like the frame rate was awful, and yeah, I didn't have much motivation to play it. But yes, it would be Enemy Front then, I believe. What's annoying is there is a World War II game I've got which I quite like, despite it being buggy, but Poland isn't in that, which is a bit annoying, even though there's maps set in Poland. There's that, but there's not actually, any bits where you can play as the Poles. Well, that's because they were a neutral power, basically, ACM. They were neither part of the Warsaw Pact nor NATO. They were basically a neutral country. A bit like Switzerland, you know. I haven't seen the Uprising, Litter Picker. Yeah, you wouldn't want to take cover behind anything flammable, even if in reality, you know, they don't light up as easily in games and films. I wouldn't want to stand next to something flammable. What, COVID-19 inductive tea cake? Sadly, I think now, because of the Indian variant and how bad it's getting there, I reckon that's just going to cause another, massive wave of it around the world now. Because, again, the government was too fucking slow, because they were more interested in that European Football League, whatever it was, than shutting flights down from India when everybody was warning them to do it. They eventually did it and then said, well, we'll stop it from a certain date, not today. And they had over 300,000 people infected and several thousand dead in India yesterday. The situation is getting worse and worse, and our government, as usual, has been completely pointless at, dealing with it. And, here I was hoping COVID would be over so our economy wouldn't be fucked, but I don't think it is over now, because our government has again decided not to be, they're reactive, not preactive, whatever the word is, proactive. What's COD Baccarat? I've not heard of that one. But bear in mind, I haven't played any of the Call of Duties after Modern Warfare 3. I've got HROT weirdly installed at the moment. Czechoslovakian Quake, basically, yeah. I was happy when I played HROT that there's a level set in the castle, isn't there? And I've been there in Prague. I was like, oh, that's that bit in Prague. But yes, HROT, Czechoslovakian Quake. Yes, I do have that installed. So yes, I know what HROT is, or HROT, whatever it's pronounced. What's my favourite cheese? I mean, I like strong cheddar, but I like a lot of other cheese as well. It depends what they're with, really. I used to play a lot of War Thunder, but I just got fed up with it. The one I used to like, but then I think they sold it to another developer and then it eventually died, was it called Armored Warfare? It was originally made by Obsidian. And that was like quite a graphically nice one with like modern combat vehicles in. Yeah, I've got Paranoia. I've even got a Paranoia version burnt to a CD that I can put in my not GameCube, the old one, Dreamcast, and you can play Paranoia on Dreamcast. So yeah. My favorite orange juice is Agent Orange Juice. I think it's going to get better for a while, inductive tea cake, but because the Indian variant is over here now and spreading, we don't know yet how vaccine resistant it is. Worst case scenario, it turns out to be vaccine resistant enough that it causes another wave, everything has to shut down for about a year. And, you don't know, again, if we're going to get another variation in the future as well, because that's what I sort of worry about. But, again, there's going to be another mutation or whatever that is completely vaccine resistant. Yeah, if people haven't seen it, there's videos where people are dying outside the hospitals now in India because they've just run out of oxygen inside. But, that's the problem with COVID, is that I think a lot of people don't get the logic of it's most dangerous when the hospitals are overwhelmed. Thankfully, in a lot of Western countries, that didn't happen, or it only happened in very limited circumstances. That's happening across India now because of how fast this new variant's spreading. I've got an East German knapsack sort of thing, not smoker. The only thing I don't like about that is it doesn't have very good shoulder straps. It's an alright little backpack, but the shoulder straps are a bit crap on it. My favourite backpack out of all of the ones I've got is my massive British Army one. The Bergson or Bergerson, whatever they call it. The one that's like 120 or 150 litre capacity. That is a really good backpack. Yeah, right. I'll be off in a minute, and I'll be on Weapon Collector's stream a bit later. Not nutsack, Brighto, knapsack. Knapsack's like a little rucksack ammo bag thing. But yeah, because I've got a Swiss knapsack, and that has a similar problem that the straps aren't very good. I don't know why it is knapsacks have shit straps a lot of the time. It might be because they're designed to be worn with certain chest rigs where they sort of click into them. So you're not meant to put all of the weight on the knapsack. But, you know, I don't want to go around with a load of chest rigs on just to wear a little backpack. But yeah, my favourite one is just my giant British Army 95 DPM Bergson I bought recently. Just because, you know, it looks like that S10 bag, but it's gigantic. And it's got really good straps on it, really good chest, you know, straps. Get your mask on, Brandon. Gas, 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 get your mask on. Too late, you're already dead. There you go. That's my advice, is if you fart a lot, just wear your mask permanently. Or maybe fart through a filter. Because if you farted through a filter, you wouldn't smell it, would you? There you go. I've given you some stuff to think about now. Or you could change your diet. Anyway, I'll be off. I'll try and do a members stream tomorrow, assuming that I'm awake enough or whatever, and there's stuff to talk about. And in the next day or two, I'll try and get a video done on this. I don't really have any sticks or anything to whittle at the moment. And I'd rather do a video where I actually do a couple of tests with it, as opposed to just going, this is a British Army MOD survival knife. I think it is very nice, but it's a bit heavy. But I'll try and put as many things into the video as I can. I'll get some scales out so we can get an exact weight for it. But as said, I do like this knife because, again, like I said, the reason I spent quite a bit of money on one was to have basically a really, really sturdy bushcraft knife. So if ever I need a knife to do outdoor stuff, I've got one I can actually depend on. Yeah, well, I suppose Mikey could get one of those and he could link it in, couldn't he? And then he can recycle them. But maybe he's not into that. We don't know. We'd have to ask him. And I don't care to ask him. But anyway, have a good evening, everybody. And thank you. It is a cool knife. It's, if you're interested, a British Army MOD survival knife. It's not a Jolly Roger, but yeah, if you're looking at the thing, it says death to Western spies. I think it was originally a Soviet substation sign that had a joke message put under it. You know, before I go off, just because I thought of that, I bet a lot of you didn't know that, Mozart was the scat fetishist, or at least into people farting on him. Mozart wrote a thing called Lickin' Mine Arsch, didn't he? Which is literally lick mine arse. And yeah, Mozart was really into women farting and shitting on him. I suppose he was Austrian and they're pretty similar to Germans, so that doesn't surprise me. But, you know, yeah, so the more you know, Mozart was a fucking pervert. And, you know, I don't want to kink shame, but being shit on is a bit weird. So there we go. So I've ruined Mozart for everybody who liked Mozart because he was into the Scheiße.